I was late. Not dramatic movie late. The kind of late where your calendar pings you with that polite little chime and you still pretend you didn't hear it because, honestly, you're already sprint walking and bargaining with the crosswalk lights like they can hear you. Union Square was awake in that way only San Francisco knows, half tourists taking photos, half locals pretending not to be in the photos, and a gust off the bay that thinks it's your personal stylist. I had a folder tucked under my arm and too many printouts in my hands because sometimes, even for a CEO, paper just helps. It makes strategy feel weighty, the kind of weight that says, this matters. It also makes a spectacular mess when the wind decides to play with you. And just like that, whoosh, the stack went airborne. Contracts. Notes. One page with a doodled org chart. I didn't want anyone to see because it looked like a family tree with commitment issues. You know that moment when your stomach drops and time decides to move like syrup? Yeah, that. Papers skated across the sidewalk, flirting with a street vendor's cart and the wheels of a stroller. I lunged for one page, missed, stepped on another, and nearly collided with a man who gave me that look that says, Sir, I am living my life. Please remove your chaos. His macing bodies of I've reached 2009 and a sign, end of the diary. Before I could apologize properly, a small voice piped up at ankle level, bright and clear. I've got it. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. A tangle of dark hair tied back with a ribbon that had tried its best this morning and lost to the wind by noon. She wore a sweatshirt 2 sizes too big, like it was a blanket she'd chosen on purpose. And she ran no hesitation after a drifting page like it was a kite string she knew how to catch. 1 page, 2, then 3. She moved with the focus of a tiny librarian rescuing overdue literature. I crouched, scooping a packet against the curb. She arrived in a little slide, kneecaps fearless, palms on the paper just before a sneaker heel could print a watermark. Whoa, I said, breath fogging in the shade. You're fast. She flashed a grin like a sunrise. You're paper fast, she said, and then laughed at her own joke like it had chosen her, and she was honored. Paper fast, I repeated, feeling something unknot at the base of my skull. I'll put that on my resume. Do you have a resume? She asked earnestly, already chasing another sheet. My mom says grown-ups always have one, even if they don't need it. It's like a map of where you've been. I blinked. That's a really good definition. It's not mine, she said, standing, cheeks flushed. I collect definitions. They sound important. We made a little team without speaking about it. She'd chase, I'd corner, I'd reach, she'd secure. The city, mercifully, seemed to pause and give us a safe pocket in its noise. A teenage skater hopped his board around us like we were an art installation. A woman with red lipstick and a tiny dog pointed with her cup lid. There's one by the bench. The dog yawned like paperwork bored him. The girl gathered a last page from the base of a streetlight, held it out with 2 hands the way children handle sacred things, and said, Sir. I took it carefully. Thank you. She shrugged. I like collecting things that want to run away. I almost said me too, but that felt too honest for a Monday. We crouched on the steps near the statue to sort the pile back into something like order. I tried to keep the more embarrassing documents out of sight. She watched with that precise interest kids have, the kind that makes you feel both seen and tested. Are you famous? She asked, like it wasn't a big deal either way. No, I said, smiling. Just loud on the phone. My mum says the loudest person on the phone usually loses the argument later. I wanted to meet this mum. She sounds wise. He was the go-thousand fasting the flush no-knowed. He was not a life of the bray the present. She's good at making spaghetti from nothing in the fridge, the girl said, which, in child metrics, outranks any PhD. I'm Ethan, I said. She considered the name like a marble she might keep in her pocket. I'm Olivia. Olivia, I repeated, and it felt familiar in my mouth. Not the way a celebrity's name is familiar, but the way a song is when you can't place where you heard it first at a gas station, in a movie, in someone's kitchen, while you were laughing. I tucked the papers against the folder, pressed the spine hard, and breathed. You saved me. Can I buy you a hot chocolate? Her eyes did that thing eyes do when hot chocolate is involved. I'm not supposed to go places with strangers, she said. But she said it like a line she'd been taught to say courageously. Good rule, I said. Maybe your mum would join us. We can be non-strangers together. She looked toward the corner where a bookstore cast a block of shade. She's inside, returning a book. We had to ask for more days last time. The lady said okay because Mom always brings them back clean. Bookstores like clean, I said seriously. It's in their niche. She snorted laughter at the word niche, like it was a secret grown-up's password. You say that funny. I'm a professional funny sayer, I said. It's my niche. Do you work at the big building? She pointed with her chin toward a mirrored tower that, admittedly, bore my company's name near the top in letters you could read from a helicopter. Sometimes, I said. Sometimes means yes, she said, and hugged her sweatshirt sleeves over her hands. Mom says sometimes is adult for yes. I held up a palm. She's right again. The doors of the bookstore sighed open, and a woman stepped out holding a brown paper bag and a receipt like it was a fragile passport. She had the kind of tired you can't conceal, not with coffee, not with bright lipstick, not with I'm fine, but there was a steadiness in the way she scanned for her daughter, a quiet control like a violinist's hand right before the first note. Mom, Olivia waved, then looked at me and lowered her voice. She worries. If I run farther than the bench, she does the face. What face? Olivia demonstrated. Eyebrows up, mouth an O, the soundless word where. Got it, I said. The woman's eyes found us, and the worry softened into something else. Relief, yes, and something like recognition, though that made no sense. She moved toward us, not hurried, but with that same precise control, like a dancer who knows exactly when her foot will hit the floor. Hi, I said, rising, suddenly collecting myself like I was the one who needed supervising. Your daughter just rescued my entire afternoon. The woman looked at Olivia, then at the scattered, now gathered papers, then at me. Each look was a measure, and each measure was its own sentence. It seems she did, she said, voice quiet but layered. Mom, he's paper-fast. The woman's mouth tilted the hint of a smile she rationed carefully. Is that so? He offered hot chocolate, Olivia said, then added hastily, with you, not stranger style. The woman's eyes flickered with amusement. That was very thoughtful. The with a C prost to the Sefert is Seinch, with a C prosted despress auf the Might and Devise. It is not to the prize action, with a C prizing the great, and last to the sevenders. The matty gress of the prosecases, the sevenders, and the sevenders. I can also offer coffee, I said, which I hear is what keeps grown-ups from becoming statues. She held my gaze for a beat. We have to be somewhere after this, she said, like that somewhere might itch. But we can sit for a minute. We found a small cafe tucked behind a row of potted palms, the kind of place that pretends it has no Wi-Fi and then gives it to you anyway. We took an outside table with a metal ridge that scraped like every outside table in every city. I ordered hot chocolate for Olivia, a latte for her mom, and a black coffee I would later pretend to enjoy. Thank you, the woman said. Once the cups arrived and the steam made us a tiny weather system. I should be thanking you, I said. You saved my meeting. Your paper meeting, Olivia supplied. The kind where people flip pages and nod. She's not wrong, I admitted. The woman wrapped her hands around the cup and watched the steam like it might say something honest. Up close, her features resolved into the kind of beauty no app filter can understand, the kind that belongs to someone who's moved through hard things without losing the ability to be gentle. There was a line beside her mouth that said she laughed often enough to keep going. There was another that said there had been nights where she didn't sleep much. I'm Ethan, I said again, because with some people, names require a second offering. She hesitated, and the hesitation felt like a box she unlocked carefully. Lily, she said, and I felt my name slide sideways inside me. Ethan, Lily. The way those two sounds touched was, for a breath, a door opening into a room I remembered and couldn't place. I smiled to cover the sudden weight in my chest. Nice to meet you, Lily. She nodded, and for a second I thought the nod meant more than it should. Then the moment passed, as moments do when real life continues to ask for rent. What do you do at the big building? Olivia asked, sipping hot chocolate in that focused way kids do when the drink is their entire job. I talk, I said. I listen, I make decisions, and sometimes I undo the decisions because I listened better. So, boss, she summarized. I mean technically. Is your boss hat invisible or does it have glitter? She asked. Both, I said solemnly. Depends on the meeting. Lily's eyes warmed. Good answer. And you? I asked, turning to her. What's your niche? She looked past me toward the square, where a tourist couple was trying to fit a cable car into a selfie and succeeding mostly at capturing their foreheads. Right now? She said, holding things together. Olivia chimed in. She holds everything. Schedules, keys, feelings. That's a lot to hold, I said softly. It is, she said, not as complaint, but as inventory. We let the quiet be comfortable for a moment. The city made its small orchestral noises. A bus sighing, a shoe skimming pavement, someone laughing too loud because the joke hit at the right time. I loosened my grip on the folder and let my shoulders admit they existed. You know, I said to Olivia, I owe you more than hot chocolate. Those pages weren't just grocery lists. Were they secret plans? She asked, eyes wide. Like in spy movies? Not spy movies, I said. More like how to make a lot of people's work turn into something that helps other people. She means, Lily said gently, business. Yeah, I said, but the good kind. Mom says business is only good if the people are more important than the numbers, Olivia said. But she likes numbers too. She makes them behave. That's actually exactly right, I said, and the truth of it settled in me like a hand on my back. The wind turned a corner and lifted a loose sheet from the top of my stack. Reflexively, I reached out, and Olivia was faster. She trapped it with a palm and giggled. Still paper fast, she declared, sliding it back toward me. That's when she saw it. Not the paper, the edge of something that had slipped from the folder when I lunged. It had been tucked between pages as a bookmark I couldn't bring myself to use, the way you carry a letter you can't read yet. A narrow ribbon of cord, frayed at the end, with a small charm in the middle, a silver circle with a tiny, imperfect heart, etched by a hand that wasn't a jeweler's, but loved someone enough to try anyway. Olivia's hand hovered over it like a compass, finding north. She didn't touch it. She didn't have to. Her eyes did the touching for her. Mom, she whispered. Lily looked up, and whatever easy balance we'd built in that small triangle of table and cups and city sounds shifted. Not dramatically, not with violins, but with the precision of a scale recalibrating to a truer zero. Olivia swallowed like her throat had turned into a gate, and the words were waiting to be let in. She lifted her wrist, slow, as if speed would break something. A bracelet lived there, nearly hidden by the too long sweatshirt sleeve, the same narrow cord, the same silver circle, the same tiny, imperfect heart, etched by the same hand. Mom, she said again, but this time it wasn't a question or a warning. It was a map. Lily's breath caught. It wasn't loud, but it was a sound I felt more than heard, like the first drop of rain that predicts a storm. Her gaze fell to the charm on the table, then to Olivia's wrist, then back to me, and all the light in her eyes gathered into something fierce and fragile at once. I didn't move. Couldn't. The charm on my table was a relic of a decade-old afternoon, the kind you keep in a drawer with passports and things you love and don't know what to do with. I had told myself it was just a keepsake. I had told myself a lot of things. In the story I tell about myself, I am decisive. In the story other people could tell, there would be footnotes. The cafe, oblivious, went on with its little chores. A barista rang the bell for a pickup. A man in a suit laughed at something on his phone in a way that said he was laughing alone again. Somewhere, a cable car bell clanged like a hometown sound effect. Where did you get that? Lily asked me, voice calm the way the surface of the ocean is calm when you can't see the current. I chose my next words like they were glass. It was given to me, I said. By who? She asked. Not harsh, not soft. I met her eyes. Some names don't feel like sounds. They feel like doors. By someone I loved, I said. Not because it was dramatic, but because anything else would betray the little girl at this table who collected definitions and deserved the real one. Olivia's gaze moved between us, gathering data the way children do when they suspect the grown-ups have been holding a conversation for years and forgot to use their out-loud voices. I have one, she said to me, barely above a whisper. Like yours, Mom said. Mom said it was a story we'd tell when the time was right. Lily closed her eyes for a heartbeat. When she opened them, there was a decision in place, one I didn't deserve to be present for, and yet was. Olivia, she said, could you give me a minute with Mr. Ethan? Olivia sucked in a breath like this was the part of the movie where the audience leans forward. Can I stand right there? she asked, pointing to the big planter with the palm. I can see you, and I won't listen, but if you need me I can hear your name because I'm very good at names. Lily's mouth softened. Right there is perfect. Olivia slid off her chair with the solemnity of someone being entrusted with a very important mission. She migrated 6 feet away, stationed herself like a small, committed lighthouse, and pretended to study a menu on a chalkboard with the kind of focus that says, I am here, I am not listening, but if you make a sound that is my sound, I will be there in a second. Lily turned back to me. Her hands were steady around the cup, but there was a tremor in the saucer. You kept it, she said. I swallowed. I did. You don't wear jewelry, she observed, like a scientist noting a variable. No. So you kept it in a folder. I kept it where I'd see it when I was doing something that felt like it mattered, I said, the truth arriving on its own. So I'd remember what mattered more. She breathed out, and the breath carried 10 years with it. I was 22, she said, half to herself. That's not an excuse, it's just a fact. Facts are the bones, stories are the skin. Hey, I was 24, I said. I thought ambition would translate everything for me, like a universal adapter. It turns out it doesn't work on people. She almost smiled. It never did. And then sing just a very side key to do active there is the presence, and the lax a very 5 of the longers by the smarm. The mod of the remending, the bracelet between us made no sound. It just lay there, a little planet with 2 moons, and gravity did what gravity does. I wrote you, she said, very quietly. My mouth went dry. I wrote you, I said. We looked at each other and, for a second, the city faded, and there was just a bus stop in another neighborhood once. A borrowed blanket, a night that smelled like rain, and the kind of laughter that gets you scolded by a landlord through a thin wall. How many? She asked. Letters, I clarified. She nodded. A lot, I admitted. She nodded again. Me too. We didn't say why they never arrived. Not yet. We didn't have to. There are stories you only open once, because opening them requires both keys. A gull cried overhead like someone was dragging a violin bow across a fence. Olivia shifted weight from one foot to the other, glanced at us, then back at the chalkboard, which had absolutely nothing to do with her life, and everything to do with her discipline. Lily, I said. Saying her name again felt like picking up something fragile the right way. Is she? She waited. Is Olivia? I tried again because adult sentences sometimes grow thorns. Is she mine? I've not tabiums of the breaded. The word hung there in the air between the steam and the wind, and the sound of a cable car bell that chose that exact moment to ring like a judge clearing a courtroom. It was absurd, the way life refuses to light itself the way it does in movies, and yet sometimes the sound effects are perfect. Lily's eyes closed and opened. She considered telling the truth like a diver considers the water, the distance, the depth, the way it will change your breath when you hit it. She is, Lily said. The sentence didn't crash. It landed, quiet, sure, a bird on a familiar windowsill. I didn't realize I'd been bracing until the bracing let go. My hands found the edge of the table because they needed to hold something that wasn't a feeling. How? I started, then stopped, because there were 1,000 wrong questions and one right one, and the right one was not a question at all. Thank you, I said. She almost laughed at that, and the almost broke my chest open in a clean way. You don't have to thank me for reality, she said. I do, I said, surprising myself, because you could have not told me. Time was going to tell you, she said, and her gaze flicked, just for a second, to the small lighthouse 6 feet away. She was going to tell you. How fade lies of that is great. And way fave the matter. I can hear you, Olivia Stage whispered, and then clamped her hands over her ears in a funny little pantomime of not hearing, as if her conscience had tapped her on the shoulder and reminded her of the rules. We both smiled, the complicated kind. Why now? I asked. Not the demanding version, but the version that hopes there's a good reason that isn't a knife. Because she found the other half of the story, Lily said simply, eyes on the charm. And because pride is a heavy suitcase to carry forever. My back hurts. That did it. Something in me that had stood guard for a decade, loyal and exhausted, sat down and let me feel the weather. I closed my eyes, and the first image that met me wasn't a boardroom or a pitch deck. It was a little apartment with bad light, and a girl on a cheap couch with a laugh that didn't care about the couch. It was a summer where endings pretended to be beginnings, and we were too smart to notice we were pretending. When I opened my eyes, Lily was watching me the way one person watches another when a fact has to become a feeling before it can become a plan. "What do we do now?" I asked, like you ask a teammate who has been playing defense alone for too long. She didn't answer immediately. She looked at Olivia. She looked at my hands on the table, at the callus on my right index finger from writing with pens I insisted on testing before meetings. She looked at the city, which had the audacity to continue being itself, like it hadn't just witnessed a tectonic plate shift under a cafe table. "We start with simple," she said. "We sit with her. We tell the truth with small words. And we promise one thing we can keep by Friday." "By Friday," I echoed, committing to the calendar because calendars had to learn they worked for me, not the other way around. Lily nodded. "Then we make the next promise on Friday. Already think there's wellens of a fairthand of items, because the found that does not replassive of a fairthand, and found that is well in bectors that is nomand, with of the redded, and we have a hide, and we levant. After does knows of the distant, and there is fall of the support, and the nomand of a courted, and we have the text." Olivia, who truly had not been listening, spun on her heel like a ballerina who'd trained at the school of life. "Can I come back now?" she called. Lily glanced at me once more, a question threaded through her gaze. "Ready?" I was not ready. Not for this. Not for the exact sound of my name when it would be tried in a new voice. Not for what would happen when a small hand decided my palm was its address. Readiness is a luxury. Love is an arrival. "Yes," I said, and my voice surprised me by not shaking. "Come, sit." Olivia returned like sunlight, pulling her chair closer with the screech metal chairs make that the human ear forgives for children. She set her hands on the edge of the table like a student at a science fair. Her eyes were a journal she was about to open. "Okay," she said with a bravery she had probably practiced under blankets with a flashlight. "We can do true now." And there it was, the pivot. The city kept moving. The coffee cooled. The bracelet lay still. A story older than the three of us made a small, clear space on a Monday in Union Square and waited to be told like it had all the time in the world. "Your move, Ethan," I told myself. "Say the right first thing. Not the best thing. The true thing." "Hi, Olivia," I said softly. "I'm Ethan. I'm the man your mom knew a long time ago, and I think—" I looked at Lily, and Lily nodded once, giving me the key. "I think I might be your dad." She held my eyes like she was checking coordinates. Then she looked at Lily, then back at me, and then she did something no quarterly report has ever taught me how to process. She smiled. Not wild, not dramatic. The kind of smile a person gives when a question they've carried for a long time finds a place to sit down. "I thought so," she said, "because of the bracelet. And because you talk like the stories Mum told me when I was little and she forgot to change the names. There's, it's mattering strained in the lively, in the tanster redusted. Into the lively is lively, in the lively streng." The smallest, gentlest laugh landed on our table, and for a second, it was just us. And the city knew enough to be background. "Can I ask a question?" Olivia said. "Yes," we both said at once. "Do I get two parents now?" she asked carefully. "Like in my friend Maya's family where they talk even when they don't always agree? Or is it like my friend Jason's where one parent lives in a different city and they have a Google calendar that's color-coded and sometimes the colors fight?" Lily and I looked at each other and then at Olivia, and the future did that thing futures do when they decide to be both complicated and kind. "We get to make our own calendar," Lily said, "one that doesn't fight. To nor a 5 a point for mains and to straight, has notly to see present of the tames, and the point has the canned, stillent, side the fangs, and the dace, to never. 7, has side dio, talent, see, and fellant, 7, 2a, 7, and I see, talent, 2a, talent, and we start with Friday," I added, "because promises need dates." Olivia nodded solemnly like a tiny project manager. "Okay, I like Fridays. They're good for beginnings that pretend to be endings because of the weekend." I exhaled, and it felt like breathing for the first time in a long time. The papers were safe in the folder. The coffee had gone cold and didn't matter. The bracelet lay between us, like a tiny moon that had finally found its orbit. Across the square, a cable car bell rang again, and someone clapped, and a gull stole a bite of someone's pretzel and the city laughed. Life, with terrible timing and perfect timing, continued, and so did we. We didn't rush it. If you've ever tried to untangle a necklace, you know what I mean. You don't yank. You find the loosened loops and you breathe through the rest. Okay, Olivia said, tucking both hands under her thighs like a kid anchoring herself to her own chair. If we're telling true, can I go first? Lily looked at me, an eyebrow lifting. Welcome to the tempo of 7-year-olds. Please, I said. Olivia cleared her throat with theatrical seriousness. True number 1. I always knew my family was not like my friend Maya's or Jason's, because when I draw a family tree, I always draw a question mark in pencil near the roots. I keep an extra eraser in my pencil box for that. Okay, I said softly. True number 2. Mom says question marks are brave. They mean you're not pretending the answer is something it's not. Lily's mouth did that slow, almost smile that has gotten both of them through more than I could guess. We worked on that one, she said. True number 3, Olivia continued. I've made 5 versions of what a Friday might be, if it's a Friday that starts a calendar that doesn't fight. Version A has spaghetti and a movie, because that's the rule for Fridays unless there's something special. Version B has ice cream because of a report card. Version C has a park, because if the weather is nice, you're basically not allowed to waste it. Version D is like A but fancy. Version E is just talking because sometimes we need rooms made of words. I blinked. Rooms made of words, I repeated. That's perfect. She collects definitions, Lily reminded me, but it felt like the other way around. Definitions collected her, sat in her pockets, came out at the right time, and waited to be watered. Rooms made of words sounds like a great place to start, I said. Olivia nodded. Then maybe a park if the room gets too warm. Deal, I said, matching her solemnity. We'll make a promise for Friday, and we'll keep it. Spaghetti, and a room made of words. And a park, she added, because negotiations need anchors. And a park, I agreed. We let the promise sit on the table like another cup between us. Lily's eyes flickered to the bracelet again, like a compass checking north without needing to point. I have a question, I said, turning to Lily. Is there anyone else I should talk to? About Friday? About any of it? She thought. It wasn't the kind of question you answer with names. It was the kind you answer with a map. There's no one you need permission from, she said quietly. But there are people who will have feelings. My mother. She's been more grandmother than anything. Grandmothers are the board of directors, I said, half a joke, half a confession. She's more union steward, Lily said, and we both huffed a laugh because it landed. Olivia squeezed her eyes shut for a second, like she was taking a mental picture of the sound of her mom laughing. When she opened them, she was all business again. I think you have one question and one story you can tell me now, she said, holding up 2 fingers. Then I have to go to the library corner, and Mom has to call somewhere about Tuesday because Tuesdays are dentist days and our insurance is confusing. Then you can ask more questions on Friday, because Fridays are better at holding questions. I glanced at Lily. Does that sound right? And she nodded because she knows her child's internal meeting schedule better than anyone. One question, I said. One story. Olivia nodded, satisfied. Okay. The question should be about me, not about past things. The story should be about a time you were very sure and then very not sure, because Mom says adults need practice telling those kinds of stories out loud. Lily hid a smile in her coffee. I took a breath and scanned for the simple version of both things. Question, I said. What makes you feel safest when you try something new? Olivia considered. Shoes that don't slip, she said, immediate. And someone close enough that if I fall, they can make the ground a little softer by making a joke. Also, I like to know where the bathroom is. I nodded like I'd been given a secret memo. I can do jokes, and I'm very good at finding bathrooms. She accepted this like a binding agreement. Story? I let my eyes go slightly out of focus the way you do when you reach for a memory your body knows better than your brain. There was a day, I said slowly, when I was supposed to make a very big decision at work. Lots of people in suits had very strong opinions, and there were numbers on screens that looked very impressive. Niche, Olivia whispered, delighted just to say the word again. And I was sure I knew the right call. It was neat. It fit the math. It would make a chart go up in a way that would make the suits clap on mute. What changed? She asked, because she understands that is always the hinge. I went downstairs and watched the people who would actually have to live with the decision, I said. Not their managers, not their managers' managers, the actual people. One person had a picture of a kid on their desk with a missing tooth. Another had a stack of bus timetables folded into their notebook. Another had a plant they were trying very hard to keep alive in fluorescent light. Lily's eyelids dipped. She knew exactly the lighting I meant. And I remember thinking, I said, if my chart going up makes their plants die, it's the wrong chart. So I went back upstairs and said a sentence that made the suits make the face. Olivia did the eyebrows up, mouth o face again, a perfect impression. And we rewrote the plan, I finished. The chart still went up but slower. The plant lived. Olivia breathed out, pleased with the ending, as if the plant existed in her kitchen and she'd just watered it. That was a good story, she declared. It had stakes and a moral. My editor agrees, I murmured, jerking my head toward Lily. Lily studied me for a moment. Thank you for telling the plant part, she said. That's the piece people leave out because it sounds soft. I'm trying to remember it's not soft, I said. It's what keeps things alive. Olivia glanced at the Square's bookstore as if rewarding herself for such sustained focus with the thought of new pages. Then she stood and put one small hand on Lily's shoulder. Library corner now, she announced. Then dentist call. We'll be just over there, Lily said to me, gesturing toward the bench under the lamppost. 2 minutes. She started to rise, then stopped. The pause carried a question I recognized by its shape. It's the kind you don't ask until you're almost standing, because sitting makes you brave in one way, and standing makes you brave in another. Could we, she began, then pressed her lips together like she was aligning puzzle pieces in her mind. Could we exchange numbers, addresses, the simple things before the complicated things? Of course, I said, the words coming out quick with relief because the simple things were a rope I could hold. We swapped phones the way strangers swap dogs at a park carefully, with a little surprise at the trust. I typed my number into her contacts and paused at the name field. I didn't write Ethan Work like I do for people who will only ever be meetings and signatures. I wrote Ethan. Then, on impulse, I added a tiny plant emoji. It was stupid and also exactly what I meant. When she glanced at her screen and saw it, her mouth did that sideways tilt again. She didn't comment, but she didn't change it. She typed her number into mine, Lily, Olivia's mom. Then she added an address I recognized by neighborhood, and an email that had the kind of username you invent when you're 22 and keep, because changing it is not a priority when you're holding 3 lives together. Thank you, I said. It sounded too small for the exchange we'd just made, but English is sometimes a coat with not enough pockets. We'll be back, she said. They crossed to the bench. The city let out a long, windy breath. I realized my coffee was cold and didn't mind. I slid the bracelet back into the folder, not to hide it this time, but to place it. Then I pulled out the other thing I'd carried too long, a small, battered envelope with my own handwriting on the front, and no stamp. I turned it over in my hands, the way you do with a worry stone. Not today, I told it. Friday. My phone buzzed with a polite reminder about a meeting titled, In the Purposeful Way Corporate Calendars Do, Q3 Portfolio Review Prep Huddle. It was 3 blocks away on the 41st floor, with windows that make even smart people say smart things more loudly. I almost laughed. The word huddle suddenly felt wrong. Huddles are for teams sharing heat and strategy. This was a pre-game pep talk we'd all perform, as if it were not a performance. I stood, adjusted the stack under my arm, and looked over at the bench. Lily was on the phone, one hand braced on her knee, the other holding a slip of paper. Her face wore the expression I recognize in the mirror when an insurance rep recites a script about a form that has to be resubmitted to an address that moved last year. Olivia sat beside her, holding their paper bag of books like a baby. When Lily hung up, Olivia leaned in, said something that made her mother's eyes close and open. Then Olivia touched Lily's elbow, a small practiced gesture of comfort that told me everything about their house. I walked over. Can I walk you to wherever you're going next? I asked. I'm headed that way. Lily weighed the offer, not in suspicion, but in logistics. "We're catching the 38, she said. "Toward Park Presidio. Transfer at—" "Spruce," Olivia supplied. "We get off near the playground with the dragon." I smiled. The Dragon Playground is an excellent landmark. We joined the flow of foot traffic, 3 people calibrating to a new formation. At the corner, a busker was coaxing a melody out of a violin with one string that refused to stay in tune. He fought it with patience, pausing to adjust, then trying again. If you've never listened to a person tune a stubborn string in public, you should. It's hope with sound. Olivia stopped to listen. The busker saw her attention and lifted his chin in a hello so sincere it might as well have been a bow. He finished the phrase with a flourish that made the imperfect string sound exactly right for 3 seconds. Olivia clapped like she'd discovered gold. "How much does a song cost?" she asked Lily, whispering as if speaking the question too loudly would make it crass. "It costs what you can," Lily said. Olivia extracted 2 quarters from her pocket and navigated the small ceremony of dropping them into the open case like they were medals. The busker nodded, then, sensing an audience that actually wanted a room made of notes, began a tune I recognized from somewhere too old to name. "We're going to be late," Lily murmured, and then surprised herself by not moving. Sometimes your body knows when late is important, and when late is a mercy. We stayed for one more phrase. Then the bus arrived in a breath of brakes, and the wide doors yawned open like a whale that had learned to love people. We climbed aboard. Lily tapped her card. Olivia grabbed a pole with one hand and Lily's sleeve with the other. We found a trio of seats facing the aisle, the city scrolling past in a slideshow of window reflections and lives. On the bus, ordinary things become important because they're seen. A man slept with his mouth open, and no one laughed. A woman in scrubs watched a video of a toddler eating an orange like it was the first fruit invented. A kid in a baseball cap explained to his friend how to do long division on his fingers. A teenager cried quietly behind sunglasses, and a stranger handed her a napkin as if that was the exact medicine required. Olivia leaned toward me, conspiratorial. "Do you have a favorite bus seat?" "I do," I said, surprised the answer came instantly. "Second row on the right, window, but only if the sun is on that side." She nodded like we'd just joined a secret club. We rode 3 stops. When it was our time, the 3 of us did the small choreography of standing, scooting, apologizing, and exiting with dignity mostly intact. On the sidewalk, the city felt different again. I suspect the feeling had a name like threshold. "This is us," Lily said, pointing down a block with a mural at the end, 2 cranes lifting a bridge made of origami boats. "We're good from here. I'll text tonight," I said, "just to say good night. Is that okay?" Lily nodded. "Good night is always okay." Olivia tugged her sleeve and looked like she was holding the world's politest question hostage. Lily crouched to her eye level. "What's up?" Olivia glanced at me, back at Lily. "Can I give him a hug?" she asked in a voice so careful it hollowed my ribs. Lily looked up at me, and I felt 1,000 answers gather, all of them wearing the same jacket. Be gentle, be brave. I crouched too, so we were the same height in the middle of the sidewalk, the city making room for our small circle. "You can," I said, "only if you want to." She didn't jump into it. She moved like someone who understood that some bridges are crossed one plank at a time. She put her arms around my neck briefly, soft as a bird landing and leaving. It wasn't a movie hug. It was the beginning of a language. "See you Friday," she said. "See you Friday," I echoed, and if my voice did that almost breaking thing, no one mentioned it. They headed down the block hand in hand. I watched until the mural swallowed them into its bright geometry. Then I stood for a moment longer with my folder and my breath, and the sound of a city that had decided to witness something and be kind about it. Work waited. I let it. Back at the big glass building, the lobby air was colder by design. A designer once told me cold lobbies make people feel like they've entered a space where precision matters. I suspect they also remind you to keep your jacket on. "Mr. Hayes." The security guard nodded. He'd watched me grow up in this lobby, which is to say, he'd watched me pretend I already had. "Afternoon, Douglas." He eyed the paper folder. "You're carrying trees today. There's what to the last of the dot jers and last of life. Fringe. The last of the Tyler leave and the last of the dot jers. Today they carried me," I said, and he smiled, the small, quick smile. People who've learned not to give too much away offer when they want you to know they heard you anyway. The elevator hummed up. 41st floor, the font of the company name somehow crisp, even in my peripheral vision. The doors open to our front desk, a plant, 2 chairs, and a person who does the job of 10 people and makes it look like a hobby. Grace, I said. She tracked me instantly, the way good chiefs of staff do one glance, and she knew if I'd slept, if I was hungry, if I was bracing. You're 10 early, she said, which means you're actually 20 late for something else. Have is the reins of the tannery, Sir Paula, sight of theri and that first. Cancel the huddle, I said, before I could talk myself out of it. She didn't blink. Her fingers were already moving across the keyboard. Move to tomorrow, framed as deeper readout requires overnight synthesis, which is true, because I'm going to synthesize it overnight to hide the fact that this is also spontaneous. Anything else you want to not do? I want to do something, I said, but not this minute. She tilted her head, reading the new music. What are we doing instead? Plant care, I said. Her eyes warmed, the smallest nod. We've been at this long enough for shorthand. If the plant dies, it's the wrong chart. Copy, she said. I'll hold 30 minutes. You've got 20 to breathe. Then I'll bring you that tea you hate but drink when you're making decisions about humans. I started toward my office, then stopped. Grace? She looked up. Do we have a family leave policy? I said, feeling strange and strangely right. That covers discovering you have a family you didn't know you had? Her eyes didn't widen, she's better than that, but they did soften at the edges. We have a leave policy that covers humans who need time to become better humans, she said. It is not written to exclude that. Good, I said, because good had to start somewhere. Let's also find a mediator, not a lawyer, not yet. Someone whose whole niche is helping people start rooms made of words. I know a name, she said, already typing, and I'll draft a short note to HR that says exactly what you just said, but with fewer metaphors. Keep the metaphors, I said, surprising both of us. This needs to be in a language people can live inside. She nodded. Okay. I'll open the windows of that language a little. In my office, the city sat at the glass like a giant, uninterested cat. I put the folder on the desk and pulled open the bottom drawer, where the personal artifacts go when a person lives at work. A photo strip from a fair where my hair did something regrettable, a ticket stub from a game with a friend I haven't called in 3 years, a small, nondescript box. I set the box on the desk and didn't open it yet. I let my hand rest on it the way you do when you know a thing is going to rewrite an index in your brain and you want to move kindly. My phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number, except not unknown anymore. Lily, we're home. I'm going to make version of spaghetti because library books are heavy and deserve noodles. Me, library books absolutely deserve noodles. Thank you for today. There was a pause. Not long enough to be worried, just long enough to be honest. Lily, thank you for today too. Friday 5 p.m. Dolores Park if the weather holds. Version A, room made of words. Me, Friday 5 p.m. I'll bring the good jokes and a blanket that doesn't itch. Lily, bring your jacket. The city thinks it's funny to pretend it's summer. I smiled. Then I opened the box. Letters, not hundreds, enough to be heavy. My handwriting clean at the start, slanted in the middle, steadier at the end, as if the sober person I was becoming had borrowed the pen. The top one read, L, and then nothing else, because that's how I wrote when I didn't want to write her whole name and feel it leave the pen. I took the first letter out and unfolded it. I didn't read it. Not yet. I needed to decide what belonged to me and what belonged to the room we were building on Friday. I placed it in a new stack, then another. I made piles, keep, share, burn, not literally, though the dramatic part of my brain voted yes, and forgive. Grace knocked once and entered like a person whose job involves making sure doors don't end conversations. She set the tea down, clocked the letters without looking directly at them, and adjusted the little plant on my windowsill, turning it toward the light like a nurse fluffing a pillow. HR is looped, she said. Mediator is on hold for Friday 2 p.m. if you want a prep call. I moved the Q3 huddle, and I rescheduled your 6 p.m. because you're not going to make it, even if you try to make it, because you will be somewhere else in your head, and that's not fair to them. I should have argued. Old me would have made a case on principle. New me was relieved someone could say it without making it a fight. Thank you, I said. She hesitated at the door. Do you want me to buy a kite? she asked bluntly, which is how she is when she's being kindest. Sometimes when people discover they're a parent, they need a thing to hold that is technically a toy, so their hands stop trying to write emails about it. I laughed in a way that startled something in my chest loose. Buy a kite, I said, and a picnic blanket, and whatever 7-year-olds actually like that isn't a screen. Copy, she said. I'll ask the internet and an actual 7-year-old. The rest of the afternoon was a series of precise decisions, punctuated by pockets, where I stared at nothing, and it stared back nicely. I called legal and said words that sounded like, no filings yet, just, heads up, we're going to be a company where this story, in general, gets handled with dignity. I wrote an email to myself with the subject line, Friday bring blanket, divided by jokes, divided by words, because if it lives on a list, my brain believes it's real. At 4:17, another text. Olivia, what's your favorite pasta shape? This is research. Me, bow ties. They look like they know how to celebrate. Olivia, we don't have those. We have little shells and spaghetti. Me, little shells are like tiny boats. They carry the sauce home. Olivia, that is the correct answer. 5 minutes later, a photo. A saucepan with shells tumbling, steam clouding the frame, and the corner of a book propped open with a wooden spoon. The book's title wasn't visible, but the vibe was, this is a house where pages are part of the furniture. I texted back a picture of the kite Grace had already placed on my chair, its paper still flat in the plastic, the tail folded like a ribbon that wanted sky. I captioned it, Research, Part 2. Olivia, bring it Friday. I'm good at running. Mom is good at pretending she doesn't like kites and then liking them. Lily, this is slander. I am excellent at liking kites openly. Me, see you Friday, excellent kite liker. Evening came like a theatre dimmer. The city performed its other show, the one with lights and kitchen clatter and shoes kicked off by doors. I went home to a place that had been a landing pad more than a home, a couch that held the shapes of too many late nights, a counter that thought coffee mugs were the only dish in the world, a bedroom that had learned not to be offended by my absence. I put the letters on the table and sat on the floor with my back against the couch, like a college kid pulling an all-nighter. I opened one letter, read one paragraph, closed it, breathed, opened another. The words weren't shocking. They were ordinary and therefore devastating. I made pasta. The light in the hallway bulb flickers. There's a leak that sounds like a clock. I thought of your laugh when the laundromat ate your sock. One envelope had never been sealed. Inside was a photo, 2 young people at a street fair, a necklace of paper cranes strung across an alley behind them, my hand halfway to her shoulder, like I was asking permission even then. I put the photo with the kite. Evidence. Not for court, for Friday. At 9:03, one more text. Lily, she fell asleep on the couch halfway through the movie. We're carrying her to bed. Good night. Me, good night. Tell her the kite is real. Lily, I will. I stared at the last bubble, then typed and deleted 3 sentences that tried too hard to be wisdom. I settled on what was true and small. Me, thank you for today. For your steadiness. The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, appeared again, then, Lily, it's not steadiness. It's wobbling forward with purpose. See you Friday, Ethan. I lay on the floor until the carpet left a map on my cheek. The kite leaned against the chair. The plant on my windowsill at home, neglected, looked at me with the righteous disappointment only plants can muster. I watered it in an apology that felt like the first of a lot of small reparations. In bed, I didn't make plans. I made room. I practiced a sentence that had the bones of a promise. I'm here now, and I'm going to be here again. I practiced it until it stopped sounding like theatre and started sounding like a breakfast table. At 2:11 a.m., I woke to the certainty that I had forgotten something essential. I sat up, heart banging. Then, I laughed in the dark because I knew what it was. Shoes that don't slip. Friday, park, grass. New to me 7-year-old who has been sprinting on my life's perimeter and is now in the middle with her clipboard and her ideas and her map of versions, A through E. I grabbed my phone and typed a note. Shoes, jokes, blanket, kite, bathroom location, recon. The list soothed the part of me that had always mistaken control for care. Maybe this is what care actually is, a list that leaves room for the weather. Morning would be meetings and moving things out of the way. Afternoon would be not letting the internet tell me how to be a father in 10 steps. Evening would be sleep if I could corral it. And Friday would be a room made of words on the grass, with a kite and a plant in the sun and a calendar that didn't fight, starting with spaghetti shells that carried the sauce home. Friday didn't arrive so much as it formed like fog, like bread rising, like a decision that's been decided quietly and finally shows its face. The morning was logistics. I sent 3 emails that began with, "I'm going to be offline late afternoon," and ended with, "This is the right pace, not the slow pace." Grace stacked my desk with a calm only she can manufacture, a reusable water bottle, sunscreen I would forget to use, a folded picnic blanket that looked determined to be kind, and the kite, liberated from plastic, tail already threaded. "You're good," she said, the way a pit crew says it to a driver whose hands are still shaking. "The mediator can do a 30-minute prep at 2, or we can skip and let this be human without scaffolding." "Let it be human," I said. "If we need scaffolding after today, we'll build it." She nodded, approving of the order. People first, structure second. "And I put a tiny, non-annoying gift in the bag," she added. "Something 7-year-olds seem to universally like that isn't a screen." "You're a wizard," I said. "No," she corrected, smiling. "I crowdsource parent friends and then pretend it's magic. That's my niche. And the act of the manufact of the ability of then planned. With a no potentially pality of Iden mazed and it is not out. By 4:30, the sky did that San Francisco trick where it looks generous and then remembers it's the Pacific's cousin. I wore the jacket Lily told me to wear. On my way out, the security guard, Douglas, pointed at the kite with his chin and said, "Good weather for courage." I wanted to ask him how he always knows the right sentence, but we were already in the part of the day where answers become actions. Dolores Park was a painting of itself. Kids were everywhere, scooters like punctuation, dogs negotiating treaties with tennis balls, blankets that looked like flags for countries where snacks are the Constitution. I got there 10 minutes early and immediately realized early is a way to be nervous politely. I chose a spot near the slope where the wind lifts just enough and where you can see the city's teeth in the skyline if you turn your head right. I spread the blanket, practiced not pacing, breathed through the what-ifs. Shoes that don't slip, I reminded myself. Bathroom location, top path, to the left, brick building, locked after dusk, back up at the cafe on the corner if we buy something. It felt ridiculous and also like worship. "Hi," Lily said. I turned. There they were. Olivia in a baseball cap with a sticker still on the brim, proud of it. Lily with a tote bag that said, "Support your local library," like a quiet declaration of values. For 1 second I catalogued everything, not because I'm a collector, but because I wanted to remember this frame without the internet telling me how. "You brought it," Olivia said, eyes on the kite. "I did," I said. "And jokes. And a list of bathrooms." She beamed. "We're going to get along." We settled onto the blanket with the kind of careful that looks like ceremony if you step back. Lily exhaled the way you do when a day has been full of errands that try to be bigger than they are. "We brought the room made of words," she said, tapping the tote. Inside, a small notebook, 2 pens, and, to my surprise, a folder. Brown, familiar. It was thin, but it carried heaviness. "Before the kite," Olivia said, "can we do the room? Because wind makes words fly away." "Do. Room first," I said. She sat cross-legged like a tiny editor. "Agenda," she announced, and I glanced at Lily, who held back a laugh with visible strength. 1. What we call each other in public and in private. 2. Fridays. 3. A story from before I was here that isn't too sharp. 4. A plan for when I get overwhelmed, because sometimes I get feeling traffic, and the lights don't change fast enough. He was Duma, of this well foes to the down the lengths. He was Gatherly signed, and that, it is a velity ups of the bathos, and he was Depolit is to the man. I wanted to stand up and applaud the universe for making this child and giving her to the exact mother who would honor the agenda and also let it grow. Instead, I nodded, like this was a board meeting that finally had the right board. "Names," I said. "I'm comfortable with Ethan, and if one day you want something else, we'll graduate to it." Olivia considered. "In private, I'd like to try Dad sometimes," she said, as if selecting a shirt she might wear on and off until she knows if it fits. Not every sentence, just sometimes. Lily's eyes found mine and held. Permission is a shared language. Okay, I said, and did not cry. I breathed. In public, Olivia continued, Ethan is good. If I forget and say the other one, we can just not make it a big splash. No splashes, I agreed. Just ripples. Fridays, she said, drawing a checkmark. We keep them unless someone is sick or there is a grandmother-level event. Grandmother-level event? I echoed. Lily lifted a shoulder. My mother has a gravity field, she said. We don't ignore it. We route around it thoughtfully. I nodded. Understood. Story, Olivia said, looking at Lily. Not too sharp. Lily inhaled like a diver. I'm going to tell a small piece, she said. Then you can tell a small piece. We'll never tell big pieces all at once. I waited, hands quiet on my knees. When I was 22, Lily said to Olivia without taking her eyes off her, I fell in love with a person who made me feel like the world suddenly had more rooms. He was kind and fast and impatient with wrong things in a way that felt like music. We were not careful with our maps. We were new. Then life happened quickly, and in complicated shapes. We hurt each other not because we wanted to, but because we were carrying backpacks full of pride, and we thought the other person should put theirs down first. Olivia listened in that serious way that makes adults be careful. Okay, she said. That's not too sharp. However, in the level Notiv can see, I thought letters could carry what I couldn't say well in person. Lily continued. Some got lost because we changed apartments too often. Some got stopped by someone who thought she was protecting me. My grandmother, Olivia said softly, the sentence gentle, even though it wasn't easy. Not a question. A map. Lily nodded once. She loves me like a dragon. Sometimes dragons block the door while they think. I let out the breath I'd been holding. Shame has many volumes. The worst one is loud and righteous. I wrote too, I said. Some I never mailed because I was angry at my own choices and thought the letter should do the work I should have done with my face. I touched the tote with 2 fingers. I brought a few. We don't have to read them. They're just proof that the story was trying to reach us. Olivia's eyes moved to the folder like it was a nest with eggs inside. We can put them in the notebook, she said decisively. They can live there until they are ready to hatch. Deal, I said, grateful for a theology of letters I could live with. Last, she said, tapping her agenda, plan for feeling traffic. What helps? I asked. Sometimes counting the red things I see, she said. Sometimes 3 deep breaths. Sometimes squeezing someone's hand exactly 3 times, so they know I'm saying I'm okay, but stay, and a bathroom nearby, and not too many questions at once. Lily smiled, proud of her. And sometimes, she added, a silly thing breaks the jam. I pulled a small box from the bag Grace had prepped. Inside, a tiny bubble wand. Non-annoying. Classic. I held it up. I come prepared. Olivia gasped. Whoever gave you that is a genius. She is, I said. Her niche is making emergencies smaller. Olivia nodded solemnly. Good niche. We blew 3 bubbles and watched them make bad decisions in the wind. Then, because the room of words had 4 good walls now, we stood and turned toward the sky. The kite resisted like pride. Then it learned the wind was a friend, and it went. Olivia ran, shouting little narrations of the kite's feelings. It's shy, it's brave, it's thinking about a nap. Lily laughed. Not polite laughter. The kind you earn. Shoes, I called, because it was my job to remember. Not slippery? Grippy, she yelled back, and showed me the bottoms mid-run like a scientist offering proof. I want to say time slowed, but that's not true. Time did what time does. My heart slowed. The checklist in my head, sometimes mistaken for love, went quiet so love could be love. We took turns. Olivia the pilot, me the anchor, Lily the wise air. The kite dipped, recovered, learned. So did we. Around us, Friday folded into its softer clothes. People on blankets did the meaningful glance at the sky that says, I might be okay. A dog found a stick and invented a religion. 2 teenagers practiced a dance in a loop until they both stopped at the same mistake and cheered like they'd won something because, frankly, they had. We sat again when the wind got opinionated. Lily pulled out the notebook. 1 promise, she said. The small kind we can keep by next Friday. I looked at Olivia. She looked at me. Breakfast, I said. A real one. Saturday next week. I'll come to your neighborhood. We'll sit somewhere with pancakes that are slightly too big, and we'll make a grocery list for the day. Have it was the life to equals of 97 and Olivia looked to Lily, who weighed the ask not for safety but for emotional math. 1 hour, Lily said. Then we walk you home because walking people home is how we do goodbyes. Done, I said, trying not to fist pump like a third grader who'd been picked first for kickball. I have a promise too, Olivia said, flipping to a clean page. I will tell Grandma about you in a nice way that doesn't make her dragon fire too big. Lily breathed, relieved and alert. I'll help, she said. We were packing up when the universe did its timing thing. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but not unknown this time in the truest sense. I didn't need to see the name. I felt it in the angle of the vibration. Lily watched my face shift 1 degree. Who? She asked. I showed her the screen. She stared at the name, then at me. She never calls first, she said. Maybe she's been blocking the door while she thinks, I said, returning her earlier mercy to her. Olivia peered up with the solemn interest of a person who understands dragons are part of the family. Is it Grandma? Yes, Lily said. It is. We stood in a small triangle, the kite at our feet like a loyal dog. The park breathed around us. The call kept ringing, patient and old and stubborn. Answer, Olivia whispered. Let's make the room bigger. Lily let it ring once more, then answered on speaker. Hi, Mayor. Where are you? A voice of gravel and silk. Dolores Park. With Olivia. Beat. And Ethan. Put him on, Maria said. Hello, Miss Maria, I said, hands open on my knees. I hear you found wind and a kite, she said. You think today changes everything? No, I said. It changes today. We'll keep changing today until the calendar stops fighting. A small sound, almost a chuckle. Come talk to me like a human while the soup is warm. 25 minutes later, shoes off at the door, we sat at her table, Olivia between us, steam rising from bowls. The apartment smelled like soup and old books, a crucifix shared wall space with a framed library card. Tell me what you're going to do, Maria said. Be here on Fridays. Start with small promises. Learn. Use law later to protect what we build, not replace it. She flicked a glance at Lily. Do you believe him? I believe the version I met today, Lily said, and I have a plan for the version on a bad day. Good, Maria said. Olivia, 1 thing you want, 2 you don't. I want 2 people to show up on time, Olivia said. I don't want yelling, and I don't want secret backpacks. Maria slid her the bread. Meetings require butter, she added. Maria stood, returned with a gold shoebox. I kept letters, she said, meeting my eyes. Thought I was protecting my daughter from a fire that doesn't leave marks. I was right to worry about a boy, wrong, about time. She set the box down. These were never mine. We didn't dive in, we let gravity talk. Grandma, Olivia asked softly, did you do a bad thing? Yes, Maria said. For a good reason that didn't stay good long enough. Then your promise is, no more being the mailbox. Letters go to the right houses. Promise, Maria said, crossing herself like a notary. Tea replaced soup sesame cookies. Crackle like patience. We drafted plain rules in a notebook. Fridays ours, Saturday breakfasts alternate, no surprise visits, midweek video call if Olivia wants. If late, text, I'm late, I'm sorry, I'll be there by time. Stickers sealed each line. Maria pulled an album plastic sleeves that crackled. This is where you come from, she told Olivia. Her mother's brain, her stubbornness, a kitchen full of ligaments of light. Then she looked at me. Now you give her the other half if you keep your word. I will, I said, and felt the door click shut in the right room. At the door, Olivia hugged her grandmother like the oldest tree in a park. Grandma is a dragon who does paperwork, she told me on the stairs. Legal next week, Maria called after us, not a threat weather. Outside, evening put its hand on the city. On the bus, Olivia squeezed Lily's hand 3 times. I'm okay, but stay. Count red things, Lily murmured. Stop sign, brake light. A woman's shoes plus 1 kite tail in a bag. At their block, we set Saturday breakfast. Pancakes too big, the diner with the silliest menu font. If I say, Dad by accident, before then, Olivia said, careful. Don't be startled. I won't, I said. I'll be here. Upstairs lights blinked on. A text. Upstairs. She's making dramatic toothbrushing noises. Thanks for keeping today small. Thank you for making small feel big enough, I replied, and headed into a night that finally breathed like clean sheets. Monday arrived like a checklist. Grace built soft walls around my calendar, 2 hours blocked as plant care. Mediator penciled for next Friday. Scaffolding after humans, she said, slipping a folder across my desk. Also, crowdsourced 7-year-old wisdom. Non-screen ideas. Niche approved. I texted Lily. Good morning. No agenda, just hello. She replied with a photo of Olivia's lunchbox note. You're brave. Also, eat the grapes. A dragon sticker roared in the corner. Maria's work. At noon, the board pinged with a question disguised as concern. Optics of the CEO's personal matter. I answered in one line, we model policies we claim to value. Grace's follow-up translated that into slides the board would understand without sanding off the point. Midweek, we tested our plan. Olivia FaceTimed from the corner of her couch, cap on backward, a book balanced on her knees. Midweek call, she said, ceremonial. 5 minutes, timer running. I have 3 updates. Proceed, I said. 1. I told Grandma nicely. She didn't breathe fire. She made soup. 2. I got a 92 on spelling, because still rude. 3. Dentist says I clench when I think. Mum says, same. Same, I confessed. Also, she added, lowering her voice, tomorrow at school we have readers' theatre. I'm nervous like soda bubbles. What's the plan if my feelings have traffic? Find the bathroom. 3 hand squeezes. 1 joke. She nodded. Joke now? Safe. Safe all attendant felly. Safe to the morant. 9th. Intervide of Kudlas. I delivered a kid-safe classic so bad it looped to excellent. She groaned, delighted. Okay. Timer says bye. See you Saturday for pancakes too big. Thursday, the mediator call. 10 quiet minutes. You want law to protect what you build, she repeated. So start with nouns before contracts. Who are you to Olivia? Who is she to you? I wrote, I'm here, again and again. That night, my phone buzzed. A photo from Lily Olivia on stage, paper crown, mouth midline. You could see the moment she got to the end of a brave sentence and found it still held. Under it, she counted 3 red things backstage. Bathroom located. 1 joke deployed. I breathed like I'd been holding the cue. Friday at work. Legal proposed a press line if it leaks. I said no to preemptive theatre. If truth shows up on someone else's timeline, we'll answer in 1 sentence and go back to pancakes, I told Grace. She grinned. Copy. Pancakes beat press. Maria called in the afternoon. No greeting, just purpose. Breakfast tastes better if everyone says a true thing the size of a sugar cube. A pause. You bring the sugar, I'll bring the heat. On the way home, I bought a pen Olivia would love, ink that smells like oranges, because the internet insisted childhood should. I almost bought a 2nd kite, then stopped. 1 was enough. More wind would find us. Night texts. Olivia, research. Best syrup equals middle of the stack. Me, agreed. Also, shoes that don't slip. Olivia, copy. Also, bring the joke that is so bad it's excellent. Lily. Weather says bring jackets. City thinks it's funny again. Me, jacket, kite tail, sugar cube, true thing. I laid the notebook and 2 letters on the table. Not to read alone. To carry. I practiced the sentence. I wanted to begin with at breakfast. Small. Not sharp. Just bones. I missed a lot. I'm here now. And I'm coming back. Then I slept like the city finally let me. Saturday arrived smelling like griddles and coffee. The diner's neon didn't know subtlety, and the menu font was exactly as silly as promised. Olivia slid into the booth with a tiny hop she pretended not to do. Lily followed with that morning calm that decides more than nights do. Research shows syrup belongs in the middle of the stack, Olivia announced. Grandma reviewed? I asked. The highest form of peer review, she said. We ordered pancakes too big, plain, blueberry, and one that thought it was a birthday. Before the plates landed, we traded sugar cube truths. Lily, I get nervous when rooms get loud. I'll ask for quiet without apologizing. Me, I'm going to make beginner mistakes. I'll say so, and fix them without making it your job. Olivia lifted the notebook. I brought the small questions. To there see the redoys. The maina, small builds bridges you can walk, Lily said. Okay, Olivia said. What's your favorite not cool animal? Pigeon, I said. Their small city grandmothers know everything, forgive most of it. She beamed. Correct. Then, if I get mad that something is new, we say it, I told her. You get space. We try again in smaller steps. No one loses points for telling the truth. Oh, pancakes arrived like a halftime show. Olivia poured syrup into the middle with scientific solemnity, watched it find its level, then passed me the jug like a baton. We ate unhurried. Halfway through, she set down her fork. I have a happy but also cry feeling. Traffic is light. 3 squeezes. There is not due there alsos of the text with the soaring. How to did. Under the table, Lily squeezed her hand. I'm okay, but stay. Olivia breathed and looked at me. What happens on days when you're too busy at the big building? I won't use busy to break promises, I said. If a day goes sideways, I'll tell you before it takes you with it. We'll reschedule on the calendar that doesn't fight. If I'm late, my message says, I'm late. I'm sorry. I'll be there by time. And then I am. She weighed the words, then returned to the pancake that thought it was a birthday. After breakfast, we grabbed extra kite string from a shop where the owner treated Olivia like a fellow pilot. Dolores Park waited green, sloped, benevolent. The kite resisted like pride, then remembered wind is a friend. Olivia ran, narrating the kite's feelings. It's shy. It's brave. Lily laughed the earned kind. I held the line not as a leash but a promise. Here. Again and again. On the blanket, Lily opened the brown folder. 2 letters slid out ordinary paper. Museum gravity. Not out loud, she said. I just want them to breathe the same air as us. Olivia touched the corners like a librarian, then tucked them into the notebook's pocket, as if planting seeds. My turn, Olivia said, flipping to a grid in pencil. Plan for days that hiccup. Colored boxes for school, library, pancakes, walking people home. Grandma says schedules are promises to our future selves. She's right, I said. We can change them when we learn more. We made one last sugar cube promise. Game night once a month, Olivia proposed, and a jar for tiny wins. We feed it with little papers. When it's full, we spill them on a picnic blanket and read them with snacks that crunch. Deal, I said. We'll call it the plant jar. Because plants and charts, she grinned. Because plants and charts. By afternoon the wind turned bossy, so we landed the kite and left the park better than we found it. 1 extra wrapper in our bag, because that's how you tell a place, thank you. Back at their building, Olivia tapped her notebook. Agenda, 1 last question. What do I call you when it's just us and the jar is open and no one's listening except the plant? Who? I kept it small and not sharp. Whatever feels truest when the jar opens. Try one. We'll see if it fits. She thought like a scientist and a poet, then tried it on as naturally as reaching for a napkin. See you soon, Dad. No fanfare. Just the right word, in the right mouth at the right temperature. Lily's hand found my sleeve. Room still holding? It is, I said, and knew I wasn't talking about the room. They went upstairs. I stood on the sidewalk with a kite tail peeking from my bag and the plant jar glowing like a small lamp in my chest. My phone buzzed. Grace, mediator confirmed. Friday 2 p.m. HR draft ready. Also, Maria wants a copy of any parental leave doc highlighted for dragons. Me. Copy. Sugar cube truth from breakfast. I'll make beginner mistakes. Fixing them is my job. Grace. Excellent. Also, I ordered orange-scented pens. Don't ask. Me. Already used one. At home, my window plant stood taller than it had any right to. I rinsed a plain jar, dried it, and wrote 2 notes. Tiny win number 001. Today, we found wind together. Tiny win number 002. We built a room made of words, and it held. I dropped them in the jar. The room felt bigger. A final text, small as a sugar cube, big as a door, to both of them, here and coming back. Outside, the city breathed like clean sheets. Inside, the plant faced the light. And for once, the calendar didn't fight.